Hi everyone, it's Nancy from Icon Apprentice, back with you again. We're continuing to work on our holy face, and we have done everything up until the flesh. We're finished with the flesh, and now we're going to do the outlining of the flesh. We have done the outlining of the hair and the beard and the mustache. We've done the outlining of the napkin, the linen napkin, and we still need to put our halo, our gold down for our halo, and of course put our lettering on and a lettering on the halo. And right now I think I'm going to outline the flesh, and then I'm going to do the halo, and we'll put our lettering on when that's dry, put our lettering on the napkin. And there actually was a question about what do the letters mean in the halo. So in our color reference copy, take it out of the plastic so we can see it a little bit better. So on the color reference copy, you can see there are 3 Greek letters on the halo. The Greek letters are Omega,
Omicron,
and Nu, and they mean he who was, and that's just showing the absolute beginning and Alpha and Omega of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And then the ICXC, those letters are Greek abbreviations for Jesus Christ. So that's an explanation for the letters on the icon. So let's get started, and of course, as always, we begin with prayer. So our flesh outline is always halo red, and halo red is a color that you mix, and it does consist of Indian red oxide plus Naphthol red light and some flow medium, just to give it the ability to spread. And we always can add more, and we can add water to help that spread as well. So we'll put just a tiny bit on there. We're not going to need a whole lot right now, just for the outline of the face. And as always, whenever we outline, we are going to be using our small liner brush. Right now I have a 6/0 script liner. And I do need a little bit of water in here. I'm just going to use my larger brush, keep that damp here, and mix this halo red so that I have a nice loose mix. We want it fairly loose to be able to come off of the brush rather than clumping up. So we want it fairly loose, almost the consistency of ink, whenever you think about ink. All right. And so what we're outlining are the features. So the first thing that we would do is we would come in here and give him the crease of his eyelid. I'm going to come in here and just give him a crease on the eyelid. And then we are going to outline the nose. And this is an area where you can create some corrections in your icon if you feel like the nose got too thick or too thin. If you went outside the lines, you want to give it a little bit more structure. This is where you can make some corrections when you're outlining. Right under the eye. And of course the ears. And you want to go all the way around. And the rule is, if the flesh goes over the fabric or over the hair, then it gets outlined. If the flesh is behind the hair or behind the clothing, it does not get an outline. So the ears actually come out over the hair, so we're going to outline all of the ear. The mouth is hidden a little bit by the mustache, so only the parts of the lip that are actually showing would get the flesh outline, not what's hidden behind. The chin's going to get a little bit like that. All right. And that's about it for flesh outline. We don't have a whole lot that we're doing flesh outline. And the rest of this I can use for my halo once I get the gold of my halo in. So that being done, I can now go in and use my rich gold and start my halo and get that completed. I am using rich gold. And now one important factor for this is that when I do the gold, I'm going to use a separate paintbrush and a separate water dish. And that's because when I get finished with this gold, I'm going to need to absolutely thoroughly clean my water bowl and my paintbrush. Otherwise, everything else that I use paint-wise can be contaminated with this gold metallic color. So it's really important that you remember to do that. Don't want too much water with this gold, just enough to help it spread over the halo. And we'll probably need several coats of this, so just be prepared to make several passes on this halo, and it usually dries fairly fast. And you're going to try to spread this as quick as possible, and also just be a little bit varied with the strokes as you pass across this halo so that you don't get a lot of lines. So you kind of want to use a crisscross pattern as you apply. Not all one direction. Don't make all of your strokes one direction. You tend to get a line happening, and you don't necessarily want directional lines in this paint. You want it to look as smooth as possible. So we're ready to continue putting our gold on the halo. One of the things I wanted to mention was just be very sure before you start. You can see I made a little error right there and went outside the line. So I'm going to take a damp brush and come in here and correct this before it dries. And I want to make sure that I clean that brush each time I make a stroke so that I'm not continuing to spread that gold paint. I mean, once you get that going somewhere on another piece of your image, it just almost becomes impossible to get rid of it. Alright, and I can always go back in and reinstate that line then. Just make sure that you use your compass before you start your gold to make sure you have that perfect circle, and you want to establish where you're going to put the tip of your pen. Now if you're doing it on a stretched canvas like I am, then you're going to want to make sure that you have a solid surface that you can put underneath it. So I'm just going to use this small block. Just make sure I put it right in the center and then get it lined up so that it's absolutely sturdy whenever I go in here and make my halo. And then of course this compass is dual function. I have a ruling pen stylus that goes on the edge where, on the leg of the compass where my my pencil is, my lead, and I can take this off and put my ruling pen stylus in instead. The adjustment always goes on the outside, and then I'll just tighten that up, and then I am ready to come back in, place the tip, and I can go in and put my red halo line on. So as this continues to dry, we will go in and put additional coats on, and then once that's in, we can put our lines and bars, our letters, and our letters up here. At that point, we're ready to re-establish some of these lines, make sure they're all straight for the inner border, and then do our Indian Red Oxide outer border, which is going to be a very small border. So now I'm ready to do the circle around my halo. And I will tell you that because this is a stretched canvas, I've decided to do the outline, the halo line by hand, just because it's so much harder on the canvas to get a compass to stay in one spot. If you're on a traditional wooden panel, that's not going to be a problem for you, and you would so easily be able to use the compass. But because it's stretched canvas and it moves around, I'm just going to do it by hand. Have a little handle here. The ruling pen stylus goes right in that handle, and then I'll be able to fill this with Naples yellow hue and get a really nice clean straight line on this outside. Alright, so I've got my water here, I've got my paint, and I have my ruling pen stylus here. And what I'm going to do is put that right on the edge here. And I really should, I'm going to tell you to tape off the edges. I'm just going to kind of wing it here, I think. I am filling my brush. I hope you can see this. Okay, filling this brush with the Naples yellow hue and just cleaning off the outside. And then I'm going to be creating a nice line here. Right on the outside portion. And I did kind of blob it at the end there, so I'm going to have to go in and clean that up. Kind of got a little bit, that got a little crazy right there. So I'll go in and clean that up. Okay. Fill this up again. Always check the bottom of your ruler just to make sure that a little bit in here. little bit came up in there. I'll just push that back down. Once again, clean that edge up. And then we'll do the top. You can see here there's just a couple of thin spots in this. And we'll just fill that in a little bit right here. Just filling in some thin spots. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So I think I will start on my Indian Red Oxide border. Use my clean water. Get some water in there. And to get some nice coverage, I'm not going to thin it out too much. And you don't want too much water, but a little bit of flow medium would be nice. So grab your flow medium. A little bit in there. Mix that up. Alright, so I'm going to lay my finger right here, my two fingers kind of guiding this, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch around the outside edge, and so I'm just dragging that loaded paintbrush right down the edge. That's all I'm doing. Just dragging that loaded paintbrush, and I've got a lot of paint in there. And that's how I'm just making put my fingers on it, place the paintbrush, and just start pulling. That paintbrush is just really secure. When I get to the edge, I'm going to have to let go just a little bit. Again, resting on those fingers and just pulling. I did get a little thick at the beginning, but I can go back and change that right here toward the end. I'm just touching. I'm going to go in and load that brush up, touch those two fingers, and touch the paint brush, and just pull. Take your time, it's not a race. Toward the end. Okay. All right, and now I'm just going to do the edges. And that is our completed holy face. Well, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this icon. Look for the next icon coming up. I actually have already got my design all set up, and I'm going to be working on Saint Michael the Archangel. So that should be fairly exciting. I think that'll be a wonderful icon, and I think you'll enjoy it too. So watch for upcoming videos from me. Again, thanks for joining me. Keep me in your prayers as I keep you as always. Thanks, and God bless.